Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is another video in the series where I look at famous public speakers or famous people in the public space, and I look at what they do well and what they do not so well when it comes to communicating on stage, in panel discussions or to camera. Today we are looking at Kim Kardashian. Before I get stuck into this video, please do subscribe and let me know in the comments below who you would like me to focus on next. So I'm taking two clips from Kim Kardashian because when I was looking for a third, all I could really find was her doing stuff to camera, and she's been doing it for what, like 10, 15 years. It's just all a bit dull, wasn't really giving anything. So I've picked two presentations that I am going to focus on. The first is a speech that she gave at Variety's Power of Women event, and that was in 2015. So I'm going to stop talking. Let's take a look.
Thank you so much.
Incidentally, what that is walk-up music. A lot of high-profile events or conferences use it just so there's no silence and it's not awkward when a presenter is walking to stage.
Thank you so much. I am so honored and humbled to be included among such a dynamic group of strong, compassionate, trailblazing women.
Okay. What I know and notice, first off, is that this is scripted. And I can tell that from where she is looking. Her eyeline is directed in one place and one place only, and that is on the prompt, or in the UK we call it auto cue. So her script will be in front of her and she will be able to see it and read it. And that is why you're getting that one track focus, instead of what would naturally happen without that is you'd look around your audience. Now, I say that it would happen only without it. It wouldn't. Somebody like Michelle Obama, who is pretty much always scripted, is fantastic at looking out to her audience. So with more rehearsal and practice, that is something that I'm sure Kim would have been encouraged to do. By not doing it, it's really obvious that she's reading it.
For every person in this room you've inspired, there are hundreds more whose lives you've changed through your actions and your spirit. Thank you for being an inspiration to me.
So it's well written, but I'm not getting any of the feels. It's not giving me anything because it's not being passionately delivered. And the reason it's not being passionately delivered is probably because she doesn't know it well enough. It doesn't matter if she didn't write it. As I referenced before, Michelle Obama doesn't write her content. She has a writer, but she definitely works with them and she definitely will proof it, read it, change it, and adapt it so it fits her. This, to me, has all the feels that Kim Kardashian hasn't done that.
Today we are shining a light on important causes that affect so many. For me, my journey to Children's Hospital Los Angeles began when I was young.
The other thing that happens, because she doesn't know the content really well, it becomes very monotone. Some people speak in a monotone voice, and actually she is somebody who does. But I don't want this to seem like a huge negative, because there are things that are good here. So her posture, for instance, really good posture. It's very easy when you are nervous and stood behind a lectern to kind of disappear behind it, but she's got great posture. The other thing I would note, and it's a small thing but an important thing, she's got her hair scraped back. Really important if you're using microphones at the lectern like this. If you've got hair, flowing hair in front of you, it's the kind of thing that can brush on those microphones. And if your hair consistently brushes on a microphone, there's nothing more irritating. It's like this awful muffling noise that you get throughout.
And long before I ever stepped foot through their doors. Just shy of my 23rd birthday, my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer that took his life within a matter of weeks.
Because she doesn't know the content well, because we've got this monotone, there's no pauses. I mean, we're going now into a really emotional part of this presentation that could really impact the audience. Because it's monotone, it's all coming at the same speed. It's only after she said it that it hits you where you think, oh, she's talking about her father who died, but already we're on to the next bit. So because she's speaking at this same pace throughout, she's not giving the audience any time to absorb anything. So already I think what she needed to do was to rehearse the content more, add some more inflection, emotion into it, which would come naturally if she knew it more, and just put some more pauses in so it isn't just all one tone.
That was the hardest thing that I've ever been through, and it gave me a first-hand understanding of the toll, both physically and emotionally, that illness can take on family.
Now she obviously feels it, okay? She obviously feels it because you heard that little tremor in her voice. Slowing it down if you're talking about anything emotional is key. And also anticipating the fact you will be emotional about it and knowing that it's fine, okay? It's fine. The audience don't mind. They won't think anything other than have admiration for you to have the courage to say it, okay? So she's showing great courage talking about this topic. My advice would have been to embrace that more and just slow it down.
Having the best medical care is paramount. Having a support system is critical. Having someone take the time to let you know they care, whether it's a stranger.
So it's the first time she's looked away. It's the first time she's looked away from that auto cue and then she's back. But already it just, that tiny little moment of that just adds a bit of variation, and that's what you want. Being stuck behind a lectern when you're using auto cue is tricky. If I had been her, I was Kim Kardashian. If I was Kim Kardashian, I would have said, where is my auto cue? And they would have said, as the event organizers, well, it's to your left-hand side. Then I would have said, I would like 2 screens, please. I would like 1 on either side. Because an auto cue prompt operator can give you anything you need. And if you're Kim Kardashian, I mean, you know, you can ask for anything that you want, I'm sure. 2 screens in front of you is better than 1 if you've got an audience that aren't just directly there, because it allows you to look from one screen to the other throughout, so you look like you're talking to more of the audience and you're not so fixated on that one spot.
Or a neighbor, or someone that you really look up to, can be the light that carries you through your darkest days. Right in my backyard in Los Angeles is one of the country's best children's hospitals.
So again, she's starting to glance away, but she has to be pulled back to that left-hand side all the time so she can see the script.
Where the leading research in pediatric cancer, diabetes, neurological disorders, and so much more. They train the next generation of pediatric specialists in more than 300.
Again, it's just, oh, it's hard because I empathize with her in this one because she's obviously quite emotional, but you just have to know your content. You have to read your content. And if ever you're faced in this situation where you are reading a script that you don't necessarily know, I've said it before, but I might as well say it again, just slow down, because otherwise you will start to trip up on words.
150 specialties. They care for more than 107,000 kids and their families every single year.
It's just the same thing. I'm going to kind of forward this on now. I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't watched all of this because when I do these videos, I do like to just look at them briefly so that when I'm recording, it's more authentic. It's me responding to it naturally. So I'm going to take this to the end of this before we move on to the next clip and to see how this finishes.
In closing, I want to acknowledge Variety for creating this outstanding and meaningful event.
For all the reasons that I've already said, so I'm not going to repeat myself, it just doesn't come across as genuine. If you really want to thank somebody and you know that thank you is coming up in your script, you need to show that in your body language, in the tone and inflection. There's something that I always say to presenters, and it's if you can't do it with passion and enthusiasm, then there's no point in doing it, because it just won't land with the audience. And that is how I feel a bit about this presentation.
And thank you to Lifetime and Entertainment Industry Foundation and today's other sponsors for their support. Let me leave you with this quote that's very important to me. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. Thank you.
It's just all too rushed, all too rushed. Could have really made more of that final quote. Using quotes are great. Incidentally, if you're ever presenting and you want to use a quote and you're not presenting using auto cue or a script, just have it written down. There is nothing wrong with having it on a piece of paper and saying, I want to close with a very important quote, and it's this. Piece of paper, reading it, thank you. You want to take the audience on a journey where you're finishing right at the peak before you leave. That was just too rushed. I would say she was very nervous, and like most people who I talk about in this series, just needed to rehearse more. But let's fast forward now to a more recent Kim Kardashian presentation. So this is a more recent clip that I could find, and it's when Kim Kardashian went to the White House to deliver a speech on prison reform. Donald Trump is introducing her, and I just had to leave it in because I can't help it. It's too easy. It's too easy. So here we go.
This afternoon, we also have an exciting announcement to ensure former inmates can overcome some of the greatest barriers to employment, including...
Talking of monotone, and I'm not talking about anything politically in this video, I'm just talking about what I see. Donald Trump speaks in a very monotone way. It's all kind of on one level with not a lot of inflection. And that can get very hard for the audience to tune into. You start to tune out of that after a while. Also, one thing to think about, if ever you're using a lectern, I would not recommend doing this where you're leaning and putting your weight onto it. It tends to get you stuck in that spot. There are people who say, well, it just makes it look less informal, it makes it look like I'm really chilled out. I just think it doesn't look right. I think it kind of can look like you're not bothered and you don't give a shit, but I wouldn't lean on it. I would always stand behind it.
limited access to transportation, which is needed for interviews and for jobs. To make this announcement, I'd like to invite up a very special guest and a powerful advocate for not only justice reform, but just a good person. And I hear she's starting to study law. She's also one of the most successful people in the entertainment business. Soon she'll be one of the most successful lawyers. I hate to tell all my lawyers back there. But I knew her father, and I tell you, she's got good genes, that I can tell you. Good genes for everything.
That was actually quite good for me until that point. What he should have done then is just say a name. But he's given her all this gravitas on all this amazing stuff, and then he's gone straight to the man in her life. But I knew her father. Well, this is not about him, is it? It's about her. So, yeah, until that point, actually, that was quite a good introduction, but, you know, got to bring it back to the man, I suppose.
Good genes, that I can tell you. Good genes for everything. And she's been a real friend, and her husband has been a real friend of mine, Kim Kardashian West.
Now, what he does do well is what you should do whenever you introduce someone on stage. You should punch their name out. Their name should be the last thing you say. It's a perfect, then, opportunity for the audience to applaud. Let's see what happens.
Hi.
Now, if I was doing this, and for the life of me, sometimes I watch these political speeches and I think, who is the tech team behind this? Like, the microphone issue for her. I mean, the height difference in these two is massive. That's so awkward, that. And for her to get that in the right position for her, that microphone throughout is like bang in her face. What it should have been is a mic that came from the desk itself, not on that bendy thing, but was more directed up in this direction. There are not a million, but there are lots of different microphone options they could have chosen, and not that thing. I feel for her for that, because that's distracting, having that in your face.
Hi.
She does something there, which is why I always say don't wear your head down when you're doing a big presentation, because you cannot help but fiddle with it. I would always put your hair up.
It really is such an honor to be here today, so thank you.
She's doing something with the lectern, which I don't think you should do. It's the perfect height for her to lean on like this. So she's leaning forward. It doesn't look too odd, and her hands are clasped quite nicely like this, but it's a very difficult position once you lean on your elbows to use any body language, to use your arms in any way. It's simple, just stand behind a lectern. Don't lean on it, don't put your elbows on it, just stand behind it. It's the best way to use it.
My whole journey with criminal justice reform started about a year ago when
Now already we can tell, in comparison to the first video, this is not scripted. And we can tell that in the simplicity of the language she is using, which is great. It's conversational. When we talk to people and converse with them, we use simple, well, most of us use simple language. Some people make the mistake of thinking that they have to use complex language to sound more clever and knowledgeable. That's not the case. And what we saw in the first video was an instance where someone's written a script for her that she hasn't spent time working on and changing and practicing, so it just didn't come across natural at all. This is a stark contrast to that.
When I came to see the president, after speaking to Ivanka and Jared, who really fought for me to get here, and I pled the case of Alice.
Once you notice someone saying there's nothing more annoying, because that's all you can focus on. It's like, for me, and it's probably just me because it's something I do every day, but it's like nails down a chalkboard. Once someone starts, oh God, it's really difficult to concentrate. If you start using when you're presenting, you need to become aware of it. Slow down so that you're aware of it before you even do it. Pause slightly and use a word. Like, try not to do it continuously, and the only way to not do it continuously is to become conscious and aware of it, okay? It gets annoying, that it just does. It's nothing personal, it just gets annoying. And you can get rid of that as well by really, really practicing. Now, what I would say as well is, although this is different, where it is similar is this doesn't feel like it's been really rehearsed. I'm sure she's been through it a few times. She's definitely more comfortable on her feet, you know, what, 6 years later, 5-6 years later, but it's not well rehearsed.
I pled the case of Alice Johnson, who the president granted clemency to. And after that, I really spent so much time going to different prisons because I really had no connection to anybody on the.
Now, what she's saying, the way she's saying it, is much more authentic to what we saw before. But do you notice what I was saying about, because those elbows are in here, the movements are like teeny tiny movements, would have had much more impact if it was more rehearsed and she was using her hands in this way, but she actually can't because she's leaning on the elbows. Lovely use of eyeline though. She's talking to this whole room.
Everybody on the inside, and really just felt like for me, I
am at the place in my life that I wanted to make a difference and just wanted to do the right thing, but I did.
That's a really powerful thing. I was at a point in my life where I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to do the right thing. But because of those hands, I made an important point in my life where I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to do the right thing. It's such a simple thing. And a lot of this is on reflection, but you know, you don't need to make these same mistakes.
But I didn't know how or what to do or even really what was going on. And so after going to visit so many different prisons and really sitting down with lifers, with every situation you can possibly imagine, my heart just completely opened up and I wanted to do more. So I started to study the law.
And you can see how this is authentic because you get that hint of a smile. A smile is worth, I was going to say a smile is worth 1,000 words. That's perhaps the cheesiest thing I've ever said in my life. But it is true, a smile is amazing. You smile, the audience naturally smile back. It shows warmth, it changes your voice instantly. It's lovely.
Which is, you know, law school basically in California. And my attorneys are here today, Erin and Jessica from Cut 50. They, thank you. So the best part of it is I learned so much that I don't even know if, I don't want to speak for anybody in law school, but I learned so much just basically working on memos and being the assistant to them while the First Step Act was happening and like learning how you get bills passed and working on it from the ground up. So to get the president's support and to see it come to fruition.
So much more engaging though compared to that first video. You know, that first video, I could only remember that quote actually that she talked about and the fact that her dad died of cancer. I can't remember anything else of that video, having literally just watched it. But this is more memorable because it's more authentic, because it's delivered at a slower pace because of the language that she's using.
To get the president's support and to see it come to fruition was magic. And the one thing that I just realized that needed so much support that I'm happy to help and be supportive where I can was the re-entry of people coming home and seeing the lack of support that really exists.
So I'm going to move on to the end because this is all feeling very similar. There's nothing really else that I can talk about with this. Let's see how she closes this. Again, it's probably my lack of understanding of American politics. Why this shot always with people stood behind you? The person working the hardest in this shot is actually Donald Trump, because you have to look like you're interested, like you care, that you're into it. You have to do all these things when you're on show like this, and anything that you do, like, you know, we'll probably see in a minute, is distracting. Why don't they get them to stand to the side?
I think the ultimate goal is everyone wants the community to be safe, and the more opportunity we have and that they have and the support that we help give them, the safer everyone will be, and the recidivism rate will be continue to just get lower. And so I'm just thankful to everyone here that's in support and so proud of this partnership with the Rideshare organization.
Okay, is that it? Hang on. Could it have been more powerful? Yes. Does this hark back to the same issue as before? Yes, I would say it's a massive improvement on the first video, and definitely when she talks you know, from her heart, she's good. Like, you know, it's interesting what she has to say, and she clearly feels it. With more rehearsal, it could be phenomenal. It could be great. Okay, so that was it. I couldn't find, as I said, a third video that I felt was interesting enough to draw a comparison. I would say the biggest thing in those examples is what a difference both performances would have had there been more rehearsal. It's an ongoing theme in these videos. Rehearse more, it makes such a difference. If you found that video interesting in any way, please subscribe to my channel and let me know who you would like me to focus on next. I look forward to seeing you next week.